So not long after we finished talking about the Transformers announcement of their R.E.D. robot enhanced design line with Optimus Prime and Megatron of their G1 designs, and all the little controversy that's going behind it and the discussions and everything like that, we made a mild mention that there is a Soundwave listing that was kicking around with that red designation in front of it, so we kind of had an idea that we were going to be getting a Soundwave. But now it looks like that more Walmart listings have started to surface and things are starting to be a lot more clear. Let's start with the fact that this listing here has some very interesting characters, and the fear that this R.E.D. line was going to be primarily Generation 1 characters based off of their Fluoro Deary Sunbow designs are now quashed, and we'll get into that right here. So we have a bunch of listings at $19.87, so they're also the same price as all the others. They also have the red or R.E.D. in front of it, and they're characters that are G1 and some that go outside of it. So let's dive into that. So number one, we'll go with the G1 character, and it's a non-shocker. It's G1 Bumblebee. Now, this, again, I talk about the Legendary 7 all the time on the podcast. If you're going to do G1 characters, you go with those guys. They're iconic, they're easy, they sell with casual Transformer fans as well as hardcore fans. They always do well. Now we have two others here that go outside of the Generation 1 bubble. First, we have here Beast Wars Cheetor. This is an interesting one, but again, a smart move, because if you're going to do a Beast Wars character in the Western world, go with easily one of the most popular and iconic of the Beast Wars era, and is that of Cheetor himself. And it just begs the question, which Cheetor, pretty much. Now, obviously, the easy answer would be, they'll go with the first design. It's probably the most iconic and the most well-known. But on the flip side of it is, what is the repaint potential here? And that kind of also dives into another discussion that I want to have about this line later, or maybe even today we'll touch on it a little bit, because I feel there's so much more to discuss about this line from an engineering standpoint, from a planning standpoint. But it pretty much what I'll give a small little preview of what I want to discuss. Number one, I get a feeling that this line is not designed by Hasbro's regular design team. I feel that this is done by the guys that are doing the Marvel Legends and the Star Wars Black Series stuff. That's why it has kind of a different aesthetic. It leads to a different budget also accordingly. And most importantly, this is stuff that's not going to be done in Vietnam. It's going to be done in China. That's what I'm assuming. I could totally be wrong here. But I mean, if this stuff is done in Vietnam, we're going to be expecting a very different kind of quality of figure upon arrival, as opposed to, again, the quality that we expect from the Marvel Legends stuff and the Star Wars Black Series stuff, which is both done in China. China, as crazy as this might sound, is the more higher end place for stuff to be made, as opposed to Vietnam, that's the more lower end of stuff to be made. So something like Cheetor, it's something where I go, if they are tackling this like they do Transformers, repaint potential and remold potential are the name of the game, and it's something to think about. If they're not tackling it from the way that the Transformer team normally does, and it's actually the Star Wars team or the Marvel team, it's there. I think that stuff will always be original molds. Like if Cheetor is going to have a Tigatron version, it'll be a brand new mold from the ground up. They won't bother with repainting him straight up. And the flip side of it is, let's say it's a Transmetal Cheetor. I don't see them remolding specific areas to do, let's say, a Ravage, like a Ravage, Beast Wars Ravage kind of Ravage X9 thing. I think they would just do something from the ground up, a brand new mold. Marvel Legends, they have body types. There's like specifically female characters. They usually have a specific body type. They remold and repaint it to use for different areas, and they put new heads on it. But in general, a lot of times it's brand new sculpts. So it's kind of this, gray area of how I think they're going to go about it. And it's this, and the reason why I bring it up, and I mentioned it before with the previous segment about Optimus and Megatron, is because of how are they going to milk this line, where you could, have Optimus, then you have a White Ultra Magnus repaint, a Nemesis Prime repaint. Obviously, those repaints, they might even be convention exclusives or Hasbro Pulse exclusives in the future. That a Black Optimus repaint is going to be some kind of SDCC thing. It just is what it is in that. But even in the case of Bumblebee, you could do G1 Red Bumblebee, do a Cliff Jumper even if you want to. Again, it'll be done from the ground up, in my opinion. and or even a glyph or a tap out. I mean, the sky's the limit with a lot of these. Let's get to the last one here. Again, also outside of the Generation 1 bubble, and an interesting choice is that of a Transformers Prime Arcee. Very interesting choice to choose. I like that they're doing Arcee because while she had some really good toys, and they're very good, like her first edition and her, I guess we'll call it the Robots in Disguise subline that came afterwards of Transformers Prime, both of those representations of the character model were pretty good in the toy form, but not 100% accurate. There is kibble in certain areas and stuff that are just larger to make that motorcycle work, but it wasn't 100%. So if we could get something that matches that character model 100%, hey, I'm all for it. I think that's great. She could have an interchangeable arm or hand that could turn into, her handgun or whatever, her arm cannon. So, maybe you could even come with a little Jack figure. It's the same thing. Like Bumblebee is a smaller figure as opposed to, say, Optimus Prime and Megatron. So they could include, a Spite Wiki with this and kind of, put more value into it in the same way that with the Marvel Legends stuff, when they do smaller characters, they include extra stuff. And this also leads to the last thing I want to discuss about all of this, now that we know pretty much what this wave is, because now we have Optimus, we have Megatron, we have Soundwave, we have Prime Arcee, Bumblebee, and Cheetor. 6 figures, that's a case. So now we pretty much know what the first wave is going to be. But now here, the next little wrinkle. Star Wars may not have this really, but I know that Marvel Legends does. Build-A-Figures. BAF, the dreaded word that some people love and that some people hate. We already got a taste of the Build-A-Figure thing with the Transformers Cyberverse line and the deluxes, and it seems to be received well. Hey, if we could get a B-list or C-list character and it has to be a Build-A-Figure and that's the only way we could really do it, so be it. So do you think that the Build-A-Figure concept will be used here? In a lot of ways, it's a good way that this 6-inch line could then have larger characters. You include a piece of Devastator. Imagine, there's 6 per case here. Devastator is 6 pieces. If you put 6 pieces of Devastator, 1 per figure here, and then you could have a large Build-A-Figure Devastator included with all of this, I think I'd be down for that. You know what I mean? And it would encourage people to then buy the entire line. Again, that was the trick. Marvel Legends back in the day had a lot of problems when they were still under Toy Biz, and the last 2 wave assortments sold very terribly. The distribution was bad. And then when Marvel Legends got, under Hasbro's reign, Hasbro, to make distributors and companies and stuff feel confident in the purchasing of their cases, was that, hey, we're going to include this Build-A-Figure thing. It creates an incentive for people to buy all the figures, even if it's something that they don't want. And it was successful. And again, some people love it because it gives opportunities for designs that normally wouldn't fit within the price point because it could be parsed among multiple figures. And some people hated it because either they buy a figure and they end up with an accessory that they feel is not necessary and it puts up the price of the individual product, or alternatively they hate it because if it's a character that they really wanted, now they're forced to buy a bunch of product that they didn't want initially. So I could see the Build-A-Figure thing also being factored into this. This is just me speculating, but just based on the fact that this potentially could be, part of the same design team of the previous 2 that I've just mentioned from Hasbro of these other brands, it's a strong possibility that could be something there. And it would be a welcome addition because you could get some really cool stuff out of it. Again, to get a Devastator, to get a larger figure, to get an, if everything is a case of 6, you could always have a combiner team. And then that 5th figure could be, let's say, because most other combiners are 5 combiners, that 6th figure could have the accessory of the gun or something, or, whatever else, another crazy accessory, a transformation cog, a key to Vector Sigma, whatever that may be. But there's a lot of meat on the bone here that could be chewed on, and you could see a lot of cool stuff going on. Just to go back to Arcee quickly, again, repaint potential. I mean, you could do a controversial Flame War repaint, which I would love, actually. But at the end of the day, I think I just have this sinking feeling that they're really going to keep it to really big-name characters, and the market that this is made for really is a more casual market, because while guys like me who are hardcore fans, this does pique some kind of interest, I think that a lot of the hardcore fans are going to be a lot more picky, choosy with who they're going to want to buy. and the casual fans are going to be the same thing too. There's a whole other discussion I want to have in the future about this. It might be like a very future segment, because I know there's been a lot of people in the Patreon that have been wanting me to talk about this in length, like deep dive into Transformers that don't transform, like a whole history with that and the success and or failing of that, and how when I look at this, it's kind of, I get the kind of the same rumblings. Look, when we look at the Super 7 stuff with what they're doing Reaction, which pretty much, in my opinion, because everyone's saying that this Transformers R.E.D. is Action Masters 2.0, when I feel the Super 7 stuff really is Transformers Action Masters 2.0, and this is something different. This is something very similar to what we've had in Transformers in the past from Japan with the Super Mega SCF PVC collection. I talked about it on my Twitter a little bit. When I actually posted an image of the SCF PVC from 2002, people thought that I was actually showing an image of the Transformers R.E.D. That's how similar they are. But that's a whole other discussion. I'll talk about that in the future. I just really want to talk about these listings here and how they're really piquing my interest, that they're going outside of the G1 bubble. And that's good, because that could lead to some really fun designs and cool stuff, instead of just the basic Legendary 6 and then the B-listers after that of Jazz and Hot Rod and Prowl and stuff like that afterwards. Shockwave. So get ready for that. Hopefully we'll have some images in the near future. I'm not a big fan of that $20 price point, but at the same time, I'm still reserved on where is this made. It'll give me a good idea of quality of product, and then I could kind of come to a better conclusion of how I feel about these, especially when I get them in hand at some point in the future. So let me know what you think about these, especially some of these characters, and who else would you like to see now that we know this could go outside of just Generation 1? What characters from the giant mythos of Transformers history logically would you like to see from this?